On this episode, we channel our inner Dr. Phil. You got something to add?
Who's that? Who's Dr. Phil? Is he actually a doctor?
No, you need to respect your mother. He's that guy.
That's about the best. I was just trying to bait you, and that's about the best I could have gotten. That's pretty good. I thought Dr. Phil, wasn't he that guy who did DNA testing and was like, guess who the father is?
Yeah, but he's like a psychiatrist. He's a real doctor, I think. He's like a counselor guy. Welcome to Save Every Universe. My name is Alec Garcia. I am an android who volunteers to take down the robots that were once the kindly creations of my dear Dr. Light.
Oh, very nice. Awesome. My name is Robbie. I'm a half human, half vampire who will use my shape-shifting dark magic and swordsmanship to strike down my father and end his resurrection once and for all.
From the popular series Guns Might Shout.
The Guns Will Shout is going to be the sequel.
Yeah. Anyway, so last week I was Boris Grashenko. I took a little liberty there because I used stuff from the movie, but it was from GoldenEye, the game, technically, so there was a little bit of overlap.
I don't think he actually says, I am invincible in the game.
Not in the game, he doesn't.
No. Last week, I was Alm from Fire Emblem.
Yeah, real
Echoes.
Obscure stuff.
I didn't play Gaiden. Technically, it's from Fire Emblem Gaiden, I think, or Gaiden, however you want to say it. I didn't play that one.
So just a really obscure JRPG that nobody knows.
No, everyone knows it, dude. It's mainstream.
I played the new one on Switch, Fire Emblem Warriors? It was like the knockoff. They did the Samurai Warrior.
The Musou style.
Yeah, where you run around and take bases and stuff like that.
On Switch, right?
Yeah, it's fun. I don't remember Alm being in that.
It seems like there's some amiibo unlockable stuff. Oh, yeah. I haven't played it yet. I don't have a Switch. I might get one this spring.
Yeah.
I'll pick that game.
It's pretty good. It's fun. So this week we were talking about video games and marriage. We've done technically two episodes on video games and parenting, and then we realized that we hadn't done anything on being a gamer and being married.
Or significant other.
Yeah, significant
Most of the
other.
stuff would apply to anybody with a significant other.
So, but where you're more of a gamer, basically, than the person that you are with, and maybe how you balance that, or if you're both gamers, how does that work and that kind of thing. But so one of the things that made me think of this was, if you missed it last week, we talked about gaming performance hacks or whatever. And some of the articles that I read, jokingly, they had real tips for here's how to get better at games. And then on a couple articles, the last one or the last two were leave your wife and kids and so that you can sink all your time into video games, and that's how you get good at video games. As an adult gamer who's married or has a significant other or whatever, girlfriend, boyfriend, that kind of thing, how do you balance your time as a gamer? What have you on the docket today, Robbie?
This is an interesting topic, one that's it's something I've been dealing with for a long time, because I've been with my wife. We dated for a long time. Yeah. So I've kind of had to learn a lot of things the hard way,
right?
Learn what worked, learn what didn't. So some of this is anecdotal. Neither of us are psychiatrists.
No, We say jokingly we're going to channel our inner Dr. Phil. We did, firsthand experience of what works and what doesn't.
Yeah. Things definitely change with kids, and we've talked about that a little bit, but I think there's still some fundamental cornerstone good practice things you can do that are good for a significant other. Doesn't matter if you have kids, doesn't matter if you're married. There's just some good practices.
So let's start off really big picture with the broadest possible question. Is being a gamer and having a committed significant other in your life and in your home, are those incompatible?
Obviously, no, not at all. I think there's kind of two ways to go about it. And the first way to kind of deal with having to share your time that and divide it up, the first and best solution is to bring them into it. Teach your significant other why gaming is fun. Games are so accessible on so many levels right now that I think it's easier. I think social perception is there's a lot less stigma than there used to be.
Right.
So if you're dating somebody or whatever, you don't necessarily have to cut them out. I think a ton of fights begin with wives and girlfriends just because they feel left out.
Yeah.
They feel like you're part of some guy's club, girls club, whatever, if it's the other way around. And they just feel like there's this exclusive part of your life that they have no insight into. So one of the best things you could do is bring them into it.
And that has definitely been my experience, is that when it gets to a point of you're choosing video games over me type, when it gets into that type of situation is when you start to get in trouble as a gamer. Yeah. So inviting them in is a good point. And I feel like you've had a lot more, because my wife pretty strongly just dislikes video. She'll play Mario Kart. She played Mario Odyssey with me a little bit, but for the most part, anything else, your wife will play Final Fantasy with you and those kinds of things. I feel like you and your wife have a little bit more experience gaming together.
Yeah, that's true, but it's a process. It took us time to kind of get there, because Ashley has never been against playing games.
Yeah.
She was on the show. She's been our guest once before, but she's never not been a gamer, but she's kind of had to learn. So one thing I would tell you is, if you're trying to get them excited about games, games, meet them on their level first.
Right.
So I didn't just, Ashley was like, oh, what are you playing? And I was like, you have to play this. I wasn't like, I think this would have been like Halo 2, Halo 3 days when we were first dating and stuff. So I wasn't like, get in here, noob,
As scrub. A rule, first-person shooters are like the absolute worst place to start. I think,
generally, it's not
brand new.
Somebody who's brand new, I think it can be hard. Some people love it. Yeah. There's exceptions, but she did not like the Halo games.
Right.
I didn't just give up. I didn't ever really seriously think she was going to love them. That just wasn't her personality. But so find something she does like. Find something she's more open to. Figure out has she played any games when she was a kid? Are there any games on her mobile phone? Right. Find easy stuff. She loves Nintendo games. Yeah. So that was an easy place for us to start. Her and I playing like Mario together, doing those kinds of things.
One of the things, though, I think is a little bit difficult. Sort of, this is probably going to sound much worse than I actually mean it, but some of it is a bit like the gaming with kids kind of conversation. How you said like there were certain games that you just like you didn't want to play, but your kids wanted to play them kind of thing. It's a different... If you're a fairly hardcore gamer and your significant other is not, like, it's a little bit of a hard thing sometimes to like come down to that level, quote, to like play something else sometimes, because some of the joy for gaming, at least for us, is like the social competitive,
right?
For lack of a better term, like some of that guy stuff where it's like it's about winning in PvP.
Sure. And you may be dating a girl, or you may be a girl and be dating a guy, and you like that. Ashley doesn't tend to be competitive, but when we were playing Mario Kart for Wii U, it was on. Yeah, and she trained to beat my ass. Sit down. I'd like walk in the door and she'd be like, sit down. It's on. Like, whoa! I don't give a shit what you're doing. Yeah. I'm gonna beat your ass this time. You're mine. Yeah. And her and I have like gotten into like grudge matches and fighting games. Like Injustice, it was a big throwdown, and
that's awesome.
There was a lot of shit talking. So that's not to say it can't happen, but don't force it. No one's gonna like it if you're like going in there mopping the floor with them. Like, so you kind of have to figure that out. Mm-hmm. Ashley and I were together for years before we got into like our first grudge fighting competitive. Yeah. I certainly never thought. I was very surprised, but it was a lot of fun. Yeah. It's really important to take it at their speed, find games they like, and then you'll be surprised, but they can kind of move on. Ashley had never played like RPGs, so she slowly kind of got into them. Right. She slowly played WoW, and she was more open to MMOs. There was like, she wasn't just like, oh, what is
and
that?
And now plays 14. Right?
Now she plays 14. Yeah. We played Star Wars,
Knights of the Old Republic.
Just Star Wars: The Old Republic, the MMO, and then she got into Dragon Age, and she's gone like further down that path. But it took time. Yeah. But it's really fun now, and now we can like talk about those.
I think that's a great first tip, though, is to like start where they want to start. With so much media and so much advertising now, they've seen something that looks fun. They had to have. Even if it's just Kingdom Hearts or something. There's been something that they were like, well, I thought that Disney game looked cool. Yeah. Pick it up. Try it out. Or look up reviews and you're like, well, this is a shithole game, but here's one a lot like it. You can still do that and kind of guide them into like better quality, There's nothing wrong with that, but just meet them at their level. Yeah, and with my wife, it like the other one that actually did go pretty well was the snipper clips for Switch? Or whatever for Switch. Yeah, where it was like it was a much more like cooperative solving puzzles together with. Yeah, much more of like the cooperative doing something, solving something together. Like she was very into. So we played that actually quite a bit. Yeah,
I think it's also important if they are warming up to this and you're actually getting into a games, let them play the character they want to play. Yeah, like, don't be a dick if you're like let's say you were playing Overwatch. Yeah. Well, no, I just mean like if they were, let's say you were playing Overwatch together and she was like, oh, I want to play Mercy. You can't be like, oh, I play Mercy. Yeah. Like step aside and let the new person like just try it out and find a character or class they like.
And like if someone is new to video games, no matter what, like whether it's a spouse who's never played before or if it's a friend that you're introducing to a game or whatever, it really is, when we talked about this in previous episodes, you have to, like, you discovered the joy of that game for yourself on your own, in your own terms, and you have to give them space to do that too.
Right. I think inevitably you're going to still run into games, I assume, that your spouse doesn't love. Right. I mean, maybe there's the gamer couple out there that every game they play together and love together, but that just doesn't make sense.
If that couple actually exists, it seems like there's more, that someone's definitely more of a gamer than the other one, and they, like, every couple I've met, I have never met a game, or a couple where they're both, like, really into game. They're both mutually really into gaming.
Well, and
if that couple exists, email us, saveeveryuniverse@gmail.com.
Yeah, I mean, that would be cool and all, but I think even even if you found a couple that both really liked games,
Yeah.
one of them's going to be really into Sims and the other one's not. Like, I mean, maybe a couple will both be into Sims, but you get what I mean. Like,
yeah, I mean, like, even with us, we've been friends forever, and we don't play this. There's overlap, but we don't play all the same kind of games. There's games
that would be weird.
Love that you won't touch, and vice versa. Yeah,
that's true for us. That's true for me and my brother. That's true for me and Ashley. Like, it would be kind of weird if every single game you were equally passionate about. So you're still going to run into gaps.
So I feel like sometimes though there's like a weird thing that if like with a spouse where it's like, I love this, you should love this too. Like,
yes.
You know what I mean? More so than like a friend, because it's with a friend, it's easier to just like talk shit about how bad that game is and you're an idiot for playing that.
Yeah.
And everyone just moves on good naturedly. With a spouse, there's like a little bit more like, I hope this goes well and I hope we can play this together. At least not for me. Like that's been my experience.
Right. And actually I found that even with other things other than gaming, where Ashley can get mad at me.
Yeah.
She's like, you're gonna love this, and I hate it. And she's mad, and I'm like, do I have to love it? Like,
right.
So if you're the person introducing the new thing, like, try and take it easy on him, and don't like do the Charlie Brown walk all the time just because they didn't like Destiny. Like, it's okay. Let them. That's just how these things go.
And part of it too is it's almost it really is a selfish thing. Like it would just be easier if she would just play it with me, and then like we wouldn't have to like have the issue about where time goes and that kind of like just play with me and that's that. Like, but it's not reality.
No.
Yeah.
I actually even had Ashley actually started a character in Destiny.
Yeah.
Just because she clearly loves me. She didn't like it, but she gave it an honest to God try. Right. And I was actually really impressed. And to me, I thought that was actually kind of cool that she tried. She didn't just say, no, I don't do those types of things.
Right.
So I do think, though, we still have to talk about what happens when they don't like gaming, because that's still going to happen.
And that's been much more my experience with my wife. Yeah.
Sure. Maybe you're with them and they don't like gaming. And the things that I would talk about here are true about the spouse who loves gaming but doesn't play whatever game you're into.
Yeah. Yeah. So to me, I mean, because we've both hit this wall, and I've hit it probably a little bit more recently, and more aggressively.
Is going at a faster speed.
And one of the things that I had to learn was setting boundaries and learning sort of where those like hot button things were, because even if the conversation was like, I don't like video games, or you play video games too much or something like that, it almost never actually was that. Like that was the easy blanket statement to go to, but it was almost always like one particular game or a game played one particular way or something like that. So in my situation, Battlefield 1 is a hot button thing, because I'm like, oh yeah, she's like, I'm going to bed. I'm like, okay, cool, I'll be right in. I'm going to play one round. And then it's like 3 rounds later of 3 half-hour matches. And it's like, Battlefield 1 is like a game that I have to sort of keep at arm's length a little bit, because I love that game so freaking much. And once I get going, it's like, one more round, what's the big deal? And then it becomes a bit of an issue. I don't have that problem with a lot of other games, but for some reason, Battlefield 1 sucks me in. And then the other hot button is voice chat in our home, especially like at night or whatever, if it's an ongoing multiple nights kind of thing.
Yeah.
But those were like the two main issues. And it really wasn't, even though we like, would have tiffs about it, it really wasn't gaming in general. It was those two particular things that drove her nuts. And okay, now we need to set these boundaries and step back, because the relationship should always come first. You should never ever put gaming in front of your relationship.
So I think some important lessons, we can learn. I learned them the hard way too, so it's not like it's just you, but managing expectations is probably the most important thing I found to be successful. So for example, if I'm going to raid, I plan it out ahead of time. I know some people like to just spontaneously get on raid, but some significant other spouses can't handle it. And it just, especially once we had kids, I just couldn't do that anymore. So I had to get in a clan. I had to like schedule things, and I also had to be really upfront with my wife about it and say, hey, this is what I'm doing tonight. You understand that means this. You understand I'm not going to be able to talk to you much during this time or whatever. Like, are you okay with that? There's two to tango here, right? Because if your wife's or your significant other is the type of person that's like, I'm fine with it, and then is mad at you, you're having communication issues. She's not being honest with you about, again, it's probably a bigger thing. But as far as your part goes, you should try to be honest and say, hey, this takes 3 hours. I don't know if I'm going to clear it tonight. We might try and have to do a part 2. Are you cool with that? I'm not going to tell you how to live your life, but personally, like, I talked to Ashley several times. Tomorrow, hey, I'm raiding tomorrow. You still cool with that? Yeah. The morning, I'm raiding tonight, remember? Yeah, sounds good. Maybe in the middle, hey, honey, you did good. Just so you know, I'm still going to raid tonight. Toward the end of the day, like,
are we cool with that? 7 or whatever.
2 hours late. So I'm about 2 hours from the raid. Everything, like...
Especially if you have kids, too. It's like, it is a much bigger deal to, like, make sure everybody's fed and, like, you help with bedtime or whatever it is that you need to do in your household to get all those ducks in a row so that you can just, like, sit down and do your thing.
Right, well, and for us, kids make things...
it without...
It's so much more volatile now, right? So what was cool this morning is not cool this afternoon for us. And that's been with kids. Most of this I've had to get better at because kids made me. And it was like if I was going to continue to game, I had to work this out. Yeah. Before, we had all the time in the world. We were spoiled. We could do whatever we wanted. But, I mean, things can change. And maybe your significant other had a really bad day. Yeah. And you need to just let it go and sit down with her or him or whatever and just address that.
Yeah, again, the relationship, again, always has to come first. Yeah, otherwise you're just putting it off and delaying it. And if there is an issue that needs to be discussed, or if she or he or whatever like had a bad day and needs support, like if you put that off, it's going to double down and bite you later.
You're going to pay dearly for that.
Yeah, it's not worth one night of gaming to not support your significant other.
Right. And if you're gaming with friends or people that don't get that, you probably need to rethink your
crew. Yeah, which is why like the Dads of Destiny clan that we're in is great. Like so many people understand like family comes first, and if you need to drop out, you need to go AFK. Like find a group that supports the expectations that you need to set.
Now, if you don't want to do that, you want to be hardcore and you want to say that's bullshit, I shouldn't have to answer that. That's fine, but you can't really expect to keep somebody around who's going to put up with that,
right?
Because no significant other partner is ever going to want to play second fiddle to anything else. It doesn't matter
all the time. Yeah,
right.
I mean that's true. That's true if you're like running a business and you're obsessed with that, or you're really into a sport and you're obsessed with that. That's just how it works. You have to water that damn plant or it doesn't grow. The relationship, that was a metaphor.
The relationship. Is the plant?
Yeah. You got to nurture it. You got to like prune it sometimes. You got to get it out in the sun. You got to talk to it nice.
He's a gardener. Yeah. He's a botanist.
Yeah, exactly.
He's got his doctor in botany.
Dr. Phil? Yeah, he's a botanist.
He's a botanist.
Yeah.
I knew.
Nobody fact check that.
No, don't look that up. And don't email us about it either. So I think if you have a significant other partner who's not into games or whatever, I think you got to try and learn the art of like explaining why it's important to you without nerd throw up.
Right. So yeah, that's a good point.
So it's hard, and I think it's really hard.
Yeah.
To be like, hey, Iron Banner's coming out, and you should see the new ornaments on this gear, and I have to do 5 dailies in order to... She doesn't give a shit about that.
Yeah.
Like, even Ashley, who's a gamer, is still like, what? Like, I don't know what you're talking about. So try and say, like, hey, there's a limited time event. This is the only time I can do it. Yeah. Next week it goes away. It'll probably be months before it comes back. It's really important to me. I really get excited about the armor in it. Is that cool? Try and find a way to balance, strike that balance so it's informative. Maybe you can convey the why this is important, and she's not like, everything you said is stupid.
And kind of in other capacities, nurture nerddom, like in their own right, because everyone nerds out on something, right? Whatever your spouse is interested in, the more you support and nurture their nerddom, even if it's something that you're not interested in at all, they're going to come back and be more willing to tolerate at least.
That's a great point.
Whatever your nerddom is, video games.
Ashley gets very excited about cooking.
Yeah.
And baking and everything to do with that. Yeah. And I have to kind of try and encourage it and get excited and occasionally confess, like, you're probably too far in the weeds. Like, I can't, I don't really care about granules of pepper or whatever she's excited about, you know? And she has to struggle with that too. That's her struggle. Like, how far can she go?
Yeah.
At some point, you need to go talk to your sister-in-law because I don't care and she does.
But there's a certain amount, like, if you expect them to respect and tolerate your interests or whatever, like it's got to go both ways.
Right. Yeah. You're asking too much if you're going to throw up the video game stuff all the time.
Yeah.
And actually, on that note, if you are doing whatever the quality time thing is you guys do together, you're taking some time for the two of you.
Yeah.
Let gaming go. Maybe now's not a good time. Like, if she feels like you've been playing Destiny all week and you finally have unplugged and now you're hanging out with her,
she doesn't want to talk about it. Yeah.
Don't talk about Destiny or whatever.
Yeah.
Don't bring up the thing that you've been playing. Just give it a rest. Like, And I think that
just
can
be with the other person. Yeah.
If you're really excited about it and you're really into it,
and especially with games like Destiny or MMOs or whatever, because there is a social component, and I think there's a big temptation to talk about it like, oh, so and so was talking about this, because even though it's within the context of the game, a lot of time you had a conversation that wasn't directly related to the game, but it kind of happens to come up as you're relaying the story, and it can come off sometimes as if you're just talking about the game.
Yeah, so be careful about that. I think you can actually do that depending on how well you know the person. If she knows the person, if I'm telling my wife a story about Alec, that's not going to be weird. But if I told her...
But we'll have conversations like we're voice chat or whatever, and it's like I'll have to like stop myself and like be very careful to trim out the context. I relay the story as if we were talking on the phone, and I leave out everything else, but I have to like stop myself and like trim that section of it away from the context of...
We were capturing point B.
Yeah.
And that was was crazy because it had gone back and forth the whole time.
So, but anyway, he was talking about his kid, and I said, but then this guy threw a grenade. It's like, no, what?
Because actually, I found if I say, oh yeah, I was playing with Alec, we talked about our kids.
Yeah,
that's cool, not weird. But if it's that game where you've already been pushing your luck with it, and then you're like, so we were fighting the boss,
and it doesn't go well.
It doesn't go great. So you may just have to learn a little self-control and be self-aware of where you're at and how much you've exhausted the patience of a certain game or whatever.
Right. So the last point, we talked about it in our like the WHO episode, the World Health Organization and the gaming addiction, and about how people who are prone to escapism are also prone to things like anxiety and depression and that kind of. So I thought that was worth touching on a little bit, because I know for me, I've never been like clinically diagnosed with anything or anything like that. But we've talked about this many times on the show, that there is like a really nice release of, if you had a long day, you kind of just want to sit down and game. And I think there's a really fine line between, you can slip into a dangerous gray area where it's sort of cowardly escapism, where you're not dealing with the stuff in your home and your relationships, and you're chalking it up as like, oh, I just need to take my mind off things, versus like just a normal decompression.
Right.
And I think that's there's not really a good tip on that, but if you feel like you're in that area, you really have to be honest with yourself. You kind of have to take a hard look of like, why am I sitting down? If you get home and immediately turn the console on or the PC on or whatever, and that's like your immediate go-to, that you're not even thinking about it, it's like somebody going and just grabbing beer out of the fridge mindlessly. Right. Like, you're probably in a little bit of a dangerous territory. And I take regular breaks for video game 1 to 3 months out of the year. I usually am not gaming. I'll sell a console, or I'll put it up in the closet or something like that, just to keep that stuff in check, because I think it can be an easy go-to to just check out a little bit too often. And I think it's one of those things where it's like, it's worth taking a step back from time to time.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't stop gaming at any point, but when I feel it coming on like that, when I'm feeling myself wanting to escape, I'll just sit down with my wife and tell her, like, look, I'm freaking out. Yeah. And then it kind of helps me talk through it and be like, this is why I think I'm really stressed. This is why I'm really, even just that act goes a long way, because it stops me from ever falling into that funk. I mean, the silence and just running tends to perpetuate.
Right.
So if I just kind of throw light on it and talk about it up front, most of the time, in my experience, Ash has been really like, oh, well, why don't you just chill tonight? I feel better because I've talked to her about it and I'm no longer running. And then
it's at least out in the open.
And then it does just turn into a day or a tough week. And then I move on.
Yeah, I know I've done it personally, and sometimes there's a delay of like realizing that I'm using video games as an escapism from something that I don't want to deal with, versus it just being like a normal, anxiety release or whatever. But I've talked to gamers who it never makes it to that conscious awareness, and they kind of like go down into the depths for like a month, and they just kind of spiral out into gaming. And so I don't know, I guess I would just like to say it on the podcast, just that figure out what those red flags are for you, because it's there's a point where gaming doesn't help anymore, and you really should just talk to whoever you need to talk to. And
that's true. So in any of these, like, you got to be kind of open with your spouse, but you also have to be willing to kind of reflect, spouse, partner, but you also got to be like ready to reflect on like why you're doing what you're doing, and kind of reevaluate your priorities. Like, are you standing your ground in a way where you're sticking up for yourself? Or are you running? I mean, those are good questions to ask. Or are you, if it's a girlfriend or something, do you just not have the courage to break up with her or whatever? Like, those are important things to consider.
At least, just be consciously aware of how you're using video games in your life. In relation to the relationships that matter to you.
Absolutely. Just to wrap it up, like, I think the most important thing, I know I said like managing expectations, but even broader, like communication. Being honest, being open, keeping the dialogue open. That's probably better. I mean, not just video games. That works for everything. Keep the dialogue open about it. Be willing to check the temperature. Hopefully you're with somebody who's really cool about it. So when I bring it up 3 times, she's nice. She like appreciates that. And it's not like a can't wait to chop it or cut it down. And again, I think if that's what's going on, you probably have some other things you need to work out.
Definitely.
Because in a healthy, loving relationship, you're willing to let people do things they love.
And it sounds so silly to talk about gaming in the context of communication and boundaries and managing expectations. Like, it sounds really silly, but if you're at a place where you're a grown person and you have a significant relationship with somebody, like, it's gonna if you're gonna continue to be a gamer, you hit a point where you can't avoid it. Like, you have to consciously be aware of communication and expectations and those kind of things. Then again, we're not trying to tell anybody how to do it. We're just sort of throwing our 2 cents based on screwing it up a couple of times, right?
So basically, don't run from it.
Thank you for listening to Save Every Universe. If you enjoyed this episode, please share with a friend. I think, did we get Idaho? I don't know if we got Idaho.
We'll have to check. But if you have opinions on Idaho or anything else in this episode, feel free to email us at saveeveryuniverse@gmail.com.